Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professor. Today, I am joined with Brian. Brian, I believe this is your first Draft Professor podcast. Welcome to the channel.
It is, and thanks for having me. I look forward to doing this.
Yeah. So I reached out to Brian and said, hey, would you come on the podcast and do some Bengals mock drafts? We're going to use the Draft Professor simulator to do that. Brian, what are you thinking Cincinnati needs to accomplish in the draft? Like, are there specific positions you're looking at?
If the Bengals do not select a defensive player with the 10th pick in the first round, because historically speaking, I mean, anybody that's kept up with the draft, the Bengals are not going to trade up. They may trade down, and that's very rare in itself, but they're not going to trade up from pick 10. They haven't traded up in the first round since 1995, I believe it was. And that was to pick Kajana Carter with the number one pick. I mean, that's how far it goes back. So their pick 10 is where it's going to be. There's going to be somebody that's going to jump ahead of them, probably, but they're not going to jump ahead of Kansas City or New Orleans or anybody like that. So pick 10 is where they're going to be, and I would be shocked if they left there without a defensive player. Anybody who watched the Bengals game this year knows that defense was awful, and they have got to add pieces, and they've got to hit on those pieces. They've drafted so many defensive players with premium top 100 draft picks in the last 5 years. They haven't drafted a Pro Bowl defender since 2010. I believe I read that the other day. So
Ryan, thanks for stopping by. So Ryan is another Bengals fan. Sometimes Ryan has podcasted with us. Do you know Ryan?
I do not.
Okay.
But I agree with his take.
So we're going to do what's known as a first round challenge. So I picked the Bengals. There's a box right here called First Round Fanatic Challenge, and we're going to start that. So this is Brian doing 5 Bengals one-round mocks. The simulator won't let him pick the same player twice. So I'll tell you what the first 9 picks were. It was Mendoza, Moore, Love, Bain, Fano, Simpson, Tate, Tyson, Downs. So you're looking at Arvell Reese, Peter Woods, David Bailey, among others. Any positions you want to look at, or do you kind of want to talk through what you think the Bengals would do here?
So in this scenario here, this is almost the perfect scenario for what the Bengals would look for in this situation. Only one defensive player, I believe, is off the board, and that's Caleb Downs. Reuben Bain also is gone. But Caleb Downs, Reuben Bain, those guys would definitely be in consideration here. So now, have we re-signed Trey Hendrickson? That's a big what if in this offseason. I'm going on the inclination that they're not, but they drafted Shamar Stewart last year. They've got some other defensive pieces they got. So that makes me believe maybe this scenario they don't draft the edge rusher. So that's got me Arvell Reese, Ohio State linebacker, who has that edge rush capabilities, but is more of an off-ball linebacker that would fill a need for the Bengals. Peter Woods is that pass rush upside interior defensive tackle that they have longed for a long time now. I believe that based off of what I know and think the Bengals here, and I also believe David Bailey, the Texas Tech edge rusher, will be in consideration here. I think the Bengals in this scenario would draft Peter Woods, the interior defensive lineman from Clemson.
Okay. So Peter Woods goes in round 1. The simulator immediately starts the second mock. It sniped Peter Woods from you, so you can't pick him again. And that was the Ty Simpson pick. So yeah. Ty Simpson's available. I know the Bengals won't be selecting a quarterback. So if Peter Woods is off the board and you're looking at pretty much the same board that you were before, what do you think the Bengals would do?
So in this case now, I come back to 2 players that I talked about earlier, and that's Arvell Reese, the linebacker edge rusher hybrid. And I made a mistake when I was evaluating a few years ago that I didn't take into effect Micah Parsons' ability to rush the passer, as he was mostly an off-ball guy at Penn State. Wasn't really asked to do that a whole lot. I didn't see that, and all of a sudden he's one of the best passers in the NFL. I'm not saying that Arvell Reese is going to be Micah Parsons, but I want to see if that talent can be unleashed. And this year, the Bengals utilized last year's second-round pick linebacker Demetrius Knight. They kind of started bringing him down on the edge a little bit, and I don't think he's really capable of doing that in Al Golden's defensive scheme, but Arvell Reese is. So drafting Arvell Reese in the first round, letting him do that hybrid stand-up linebacker, edge rusher position in Al Golden's defense, Arvell Reese, excellent pick for the Bengals.
Okay. Simulator takes us right into the third mock. Woods and Reese are off the board. So in this one, if Woods and Reese are off the board, Caleb Downs fell. You have Mansour Delane there. David Bailey did get drafted, though, so Bailey is not available.
So this is a no-brainer scenario for me personally. I think Caleb Downs is the best player in the draft overall talent-wise. He'll be number one on my board. Caleb Downs, okay. Game changer on that defense.
Okay, so this is where the first-round challenge becomes a challenge because Woods, Downs, Bain is off the board. Reese is also off the board. Bailey was taken one pick before you. What do you think the Bengals would do?
So you drafted a couple of corners over the last few years, and you're finally starting to see that production from them. Dax Hill had a great back half of the season on the outside. DJ Turner, the other corner, second rounder a couple of years ago out of Michigan, probably should have been in the Pro Bowl, should have got more all-pro consideration than he did. He was excellent, almost locked down this year for the Bengals, but nobody saw it because their defense was terrible and, didn't really factor it in. But you could maybe you'll consider moving Dax Hill back into a nickel position. You draft somebody like Mansour Delane from LSU, and he gives you that other outside corner plus the not after this season, but you're going to have to start dealing with the contract renegotiations for Hill and Turner. So we go Mansour Delane in this scenario from LSU.
Okay. So the first four first-round picks that you liked were Woods, Reese, Downs, Delane. So the simulator makes sure that those guys are off the board before your pick. David Bailey fell. Is there anybody that you're even in discussion with for David Bailey, or is he the BPA in this case?
Yeah, in this case, David Bailey is the best pass rusher on the board in this case, and I'm not sure that they would. I'm not sure if he was on the board anyway with some of these other guys I've taken that the Bengals wouldn't consider him. Tremendous production this year at Texas Tech, one of the best sack guys in all of college football. Just gets after it, great motor, something the Bengals they need production from a pass rusher. They drafted Shamar Stewart last year, who has now combined his NFL and college, 4 years in college, 1 year in the NFL, he has 5.5 sacks. 4 years of college, 1 year in the NFL, 5.5 sacks, Shamar Stewart last year. David Bailey, I think, gives you that production off the edge, and you can rotate him in. Even if you bring back Hendrickson, you have Shamar Stewart, you bring in a guy like David Bailey, gives you just more pass rush juice that they desperately need.
Okay. So you like David Bailey?
I like David Bailey here.
Okay. So that'll conclude the first round challenge. And what I will tell everybody is that when you see the A pluses, that means that Brian's logic matches the simulator logic. So if you go in and you do a mock for any other team, these would have been the players that were picked in that scenario for the Bengals. So the simulator's interactive. So if you do enough of these first round challenges and you can get 5 A pluses, that means that whatever your board is what somebody is mock drafting against. So basically it's the voice of the fan as opposed to the voice of the big board. So How'd that go, Brian? You feel
I,
okay about the first round
I
pick?
felt good about that. And like I said, either of those five guys, if the Bengals were to take them at 10, I'd probably be okay with it.
Okay. So now we're going to bump up the level of difficulty to 4 rounds. So we're going to do Cincinnati Bengals. Down here at the bottom, there's something called fanatic mode, and I'm going to bump that up to 8. And we're going to set it to 4 rounds. So this is a 4-round draft. Brian is going to do 8 Bengals 4-round drafts. And fanatic mode means you can't pick the same player twice. So I developed my own mock draft simulator, and then once I got the basic simulator working, I said I got to find a way to make fanatic mode work because I like doing unique mock drafts. Like I want to challenge and find like what do I think I would do in different situations. So I think I know who Brian's first 5 picks are. I'm curious who his last 3 will be. So the first round right now looks to be the same as it was for the first round challenge. Is it Peter Woods in this situation over Arvell Reese for you?
Yeah, we'll stick with what we want, the original thought process of what I think the Bengals would do in this situation, and that's draft Peter Woods, the defensive lineman from Clemson.
Okay, so Peter Woods goes in round 1. What are you looking for in round 2?
In round 2, you're looking for guys that you can, at the safety position, that you can get help from. At the linebacker position, you can get help from because you've got to do better than you threw 2 rookies out last year. You didn't have a whole lot of success with Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter. They got exposed big time. I still don't know that they would go the offensive line route here. I feel better about the Bengals offensive line right now than I have since in the entire Joe Burrow era, which is surprising. I'm not saying they won't draft one here. I don't think receivers in play, unless Kenyon Sadiq or somebody like that fell as a tight end to the second round. I don't think so. That's the only, there's not a tight end here I'm even considering in the second round. So maybe corner or safety or an edge rusher here to see what's on the board.
So corner, Neal, D'Angelo Pons, Will Lee, Tacario Davis, Keontae Scott. Not sure if I don't think
there's not a second round guy there for me on my board.
And then you said edge, correct?
Yes.
So Akis, Overton, Josephs, R. Mason Thomas is available.
R. Mason Thomas for the Bengals worried about. I love Dennis Sutton. And we'll come back to him in the third round for sure.
Zion Young is available.
Mm-hmm.
And Malachi Lawrence is there.
Yeah. Let's look at that safety board. So see, here's a name that intrigues. There's multiple names that intrigue me here at the safety position. And I think the Bengals are going to look here harder than a lot of teams think. That Geno Stone was a liability for them this year. I think he's, and it comes back, and I mentioned with the corner with Delane earlier, I mentioned nickel is a need for the Bengals. And if you go back to safety, there's a guy listed on the safety board there. He was ranked 44 overall, I believe, in your system here. Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina, I think is the best nickel could be the best nickel in this class or free safety. I think Jalen Kilgore pairs very well with Jordan Battle in the Bengals secondary, and that's who I'm going to pick here at pick 40 or with the Bengals.
Okay, so you go Peter Woods, Jalen Kilgore. In round 3, what are you looking for?
Okay, so we're going to come back to the edge position here. And this is where I want to get a little pass rush juice. And there's a guy right there, Dennis Sutton, I think is just all grit, goes after it. I think he's a better player than where he's going to come. I think he's going to end up outplaying his draft position, I should say, whenever he ultimately comes off the board.
Okay, and then we're to the Bengals' 4th round pick. You've done Peter Woods, Jalen Kilgore, Danny Dennis Sutton. What are you thinking about in round 4 here?
So with round 4, this is where I want to come around to the maybe the interior offensive line, see what's available there.
So Rutledge, Burton, Stevens, Davis sitting at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to see if Josh, now I'm already trying to remember his last name, the LSU player, I'm looking to see if he dropped. Don't see him. Josh Thompson, that's who I was looking for.
Okay.
I didn't see him.
Let's see what's available on the offensive tackles there. Yeah,
Monroe
Freeling's an interesting name, and he's a good developmental guy. Jacarius Peak should no longer be here. He's actually enrolled at South Carolina now.
So he returned.
Yeah, okay. he portaled out in South Carolina. But yes, I like in this situation a developmental guy. If he's on the board, Monroe Freeling from Georgia just officially entered the draft today. Good. I like that setup for the Bengals because they need a swing. They need a swing tackle they can trust other than Cody Ford. So that would be what I would be drafting here with that pick is Freeling as a swing tackle.
Okay, so that was the first mock. The simulator immediately starts the second mock. And in the second mock, it makes sure that Peter Woods, your first round pick, gets sniped before you're on the clock. So if Peter Woods is off the board and you're looking at Reese and you're looking at Delane and you're looking at Bailey, and then that looks to be about the board, I think there's probably some pretty good wide receivers there that the Bengals obviously wouldn't take. What do you think the Bengals do?
Yeah, so again, I find it hard to believe that their first-round pick won't be defensive. So in this scenario, I really like Arvell Reese, and we'll draft him there.
Okay, so Arvell Reese in round 1, and right before the Bengals' second-round pick, Jalen Kilgore got sniped. So if Kilgore's off the board, who's your next best player that you'd want for the Bengals in round 2?
So, again, I would love to see corner or safety here in this scenario, and I'm just
so there's corner.
So let's go back to safety, and here's an interesting guy here, smaller school guy, but he's another one, great size, rangy. Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo, going to be at the Senior Bowl. I'll see him in person here in a few weeks. He's a guy I think could help out in this scenario as well.
Okay, so you go Arvell Reese, Emmanuel McNeil Warren at 1 in rounds 1, 2. What are you thinking in round 3? Sutton is off the board before the Bengals' third-round pick.
So in this scenario, let's look at that interior defensive line.
McClellan, Xavier Harris, Ahmad Moten, Dante Corleone.
So
Lee Hunter is also available.
Oh, let's say Lee Hunter here. He's going to be drafted higher than that. Yes, Lee Hunter is a high grade pass rusher, tremendous effort guy, can get in the backfield quickly, and would be a tremendous help for the Bengals front four.
Okay. So Reese, McNeil, Warren, Hunter, what would you do in round 4? And it makes sure that Monroe Freeling, who you took before, is off the board before your pick.
All right, so let's look at the corners again. We'll see where they're at now. So Dalen Everett is a guy I like in this scenario for the Bengals. Another ball seems to find his hands, makes plays, and another guy's going to be at the Senior Bowl in a few weeks. Would be a good he won't be a starting level corner right away, but a guy who special teams will get a chance to work in.
Yep. I love that pick in round 4. There are some draft professors that have Everett as round 3. Some have him as early day 3, which is the range that you just took him in. So Woods and Reese are off the board before the Bengals pick in the third mock that we're doing. I think last time you may have taken Delane. So if you have the choice between Bailey and Delane, who are you taking?
I'm going to take David Bailey in this go around and get that pass rush help.
Okay, so you take David Bailey in round 1. The simulator is going to begin to snipe all your favorite safeties. So Kilgore's off the board. McNeil Warren is off the board. The Bengals are on the clock. Caden Proctor dropped. He wasn't there before. What do you think the Bengals would do in round 2?
So I still view Caden Proctor as a starting level tackle. I wonder if some teams will not project him inside the guard. And that's a scenario if Caden Proctor, and I'm gonna be honest, I could see him falling into the second round. I don't think he's going to test very well, and he's got some iffy tape out there. Let's just say that. I think Caden Proctor with the Bengals second round pick as a maybe a guy down the road that if Orlando Brown contract goes south on you, like if he falls off. Maybe you could move Proctor out, or maybe he, becomes a guard for you.
So I love that pick because that was like the first offensive player we've talked about 3 mocks in, right?
Right.
So actually, I take that back. We took Freeling in the first one. But, okay, so Bailey Proctor, rounds 1 and 2. I'm loving this mock already. What are you looking at in round 3? I
want a homing missile linebacker, and I saw him at the top. Give me Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech here. This might be high. Rodriguez may not go in the third round, but man, how productive was he this year? What do you have? Something like 7 forced fumbles, 8 forced fumbles this year. It's just crazy. Well, he won every defensive award you could win. This is just a guy. The worst case scenario with a guy with Jacob Rodriguez is you've got a stud special teams guy for a decade. That's like worst case scenario.
Okay, so you're playing right into fanatic mode because I know the Bengals need a safety, and you've gone David Bailey, Caden Proctor, Jacob Rodriguez, and you haven't hit safety, and now we're looking. You want to look at a day 3 safety board and kind of talk through this.
So, of all the safeties here, Genesis Smith is the one that stands out the most. He's a third-year player, came out early. If he's still on the board in the 4th round, you have to think that maybe he made a mistake, but he'll have his chance at the Senior Bowl to show who he is. But in this scenario, 4th round, best safety available, I think, is Genesis Smith from Arizona.
I absolutely love it. So this is the spirit of fanatic mode because, if Caden Proctor's there, you had to kind of talk through the logic. But there was a reason he was the top player on the board. You weren't the first person to draft Caden Proctor to the Bengals in round 2. So there's always a reason on this simulator that a player's at the top of the board. So, okay, so we're in the 4th of the 8 mocks. Peter Woods, Arvell Reese, David Bailey are off the board. So Delane is there. Sonny Styles is there. Keldrick Falk is there. Those are probably the best available defensive players.
So with this scenario, we're going to go with Mansour Delane, the corner. And for the logic we used earlier, maybe you move Dax Hill inside and have Mansour Delane there. And then you also cemented yourself against a potential contract issues with either Turner or Hill coming up.
Okay. So we do Delane in round 1. CJ Allen, Anthony Hill Jr., and Josiah Trotter are all there on round 2. Yeah. Kamari Ramsey is there round 2. Kilgore, McNeil, Warren, and Proctor are all off the board.
So here I want to – those linebackers are so tempting, CJ Allen, especially the linebacker from Georgia. But I'm going to stay with Georgia, and I'm going to get that interior defensive line presence I think we need. We're going to go with Kristen Miller, the defensive tackle from Georgia here. Another high upside guy. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet in his play with the Bulldogs, but I think Kristen Miller would be a good fit on this Bengals defense.
Okay. So you go Delane and Miller in rounds 1 and 2. In round 3, are you going to look at the safety board, or are you going to look somewhere else?
All right, we'll start with the safety here, and just to put another name out there, another highly productive guy that I think could, again, at worst, tremendous special teams player, and that's Michael Taft from Texas. Another tremendous productive player with the Longhorns, and another guy, like I said, worst case scenario, special teams demon.
Okay, so Delane, Miller, Taft in rounds 1 through 3. What are you thinking in round 4?
Just because we haven't talked about it, let's look at the wide receivers that might be available here at the top of day 2. And a name that sticks out here to me is a big play threat from Mississippi State. There's Brennan Thompson, like something like 20 yards a catch this year for Mississippi State. And they need somebody who can come in now that can play, that maybe take some of the third wide receiver away from Andre Goshevas. Another maybe somebody with a bit more juice to that position, because we saw some games this year, the second Ravens game especially, where they were just double bracket covering T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and dared anybody else on that defense that offense to beat them.
Okay. So I remembered at the beginning of the podcast where you said the Bengals' first pick is going to be a defensive player, and the very first draft you had was like all wide receivers and 2 defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
So the simulator is essentially building your worst case Bengals mock, because Woods is off the board, Reese is off the board, Bailey's off the board, Delane's off the board, Ruben Bain is off the board, Downs is off the board. Bengals are on the clock at 10. What do you do?
So this isn't great. And that is the thing, because I don't know. I feel like 10 is too high for a pure off-ball linebacker. Because I don't think Arvell Reese is a pure off-ball linebacker. He has the edge capabilities. Sonny Styles, to me, is a pure off-ball linebacker, and I just don't think the value is there. So as much as it's going to pain me and Ryan, who earlier said it, I feel like the player that would come off the board here in this scenario for the Bengals is Auburn edge rusher Keldrick Falk. Prototypical size, production is low.
Okay, so I love it, right? Because you got to talk through that. So, like Brian, you're playing like right into the game, right? So you do Keldrick Falk in round 1, and the simulator makes sure that Kilgore, McNeil Warren, Proctor, and Miller are all off the board before the Bengals' second-round pick. C.J. Allen is there. Anthony Hill is there. Besantis, Ramsey, Trotter are all there.
So go down just a little bit there. Right, the next one down. There you go, 41. As a guy who I think could start immediately at right guard, could even be a swing tackle for you, and I really like Iowa's Jennings Dunker as a player that would fit in with the Bengals. Like I said, as a rookie, maybe he's a swing tackle, but could eventually start at right guard if Reisner is not re-signed. So it's one of those scenarios where I think Dunker, depending on what happens this offseason, could play out.
Okay. So it takes us to round 3. Dennis Sutton, Hunter, Rodriguez, Taft are all off the board before the Bengals' round 3 pick. And I'm looking like, I don't know that Logan Jones was there before. So it looks like he was one of the players that dropped.
63 here. This is the guy I'm going to take in the 3rd round, because I remember I told you that third wide receiver spot, they need some juice. They need a guy who can create separation in the slot, take the attention away from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Zachariah Branch is one of the best, if not the best, receivers in this draft class with the ball in his hands in open space. at creating his own separation. I would love to see Zachariah Branch on my football team next fall.
So if you go Keldrick, Falk, Jennings, Dunker, Zachariah Branch, you haven't addressed safety or defensive line yet. Is that where you're thinking of going?
Yeah, that's where we're going to have to go here, right? Almost out of necessity. With safety, I don't like any of the guys here that are available. So I would go defensive line here to see.
So you're not round 4 on Bishop Fitzgerald?
No.
Got it. Okay. And then defensive line, Daryl Jackson Jr.
Daryl Jackson, round 4 here, I would take the chance on, he's had some injury issues, but I would take the chance on Dante Corleone, the defensive lineman from Cincinnati. 1, because I just love his name. And 2, like I said, before the injuries, he was a very productive member for them. And I think that's why he very well could be available in the 4th, maybe even the 5th round. But Corleone could be that nice rotational piece on the defensive line.
Okay. So now we're in the 6th mock, and I'm just going to let you know this is where it's going to begin to get hard, right? Because all the guys that you typically think are going to be there at 10 won't be there. Woods, Reese, Bailey, Delane, Falk, Bain, and Downs taken before your pick.
So I'm like one of these away from where either Bain or Downs has got to fall to me, right? So it's just by process of elimination.
I think you're going to like the last 2. This one could be a little painful.
Oh, man. So let's do something crazy here that I think would put shockwaves. Is go to the running back.
Love should be here, yes.
Love is here. Let's just get the people talking on draft day and put Jeremiah Love in this Bengals offense with Chase Brown, with Chase, with Higgins.
That would be an incredible pick, and I am sure Dale has gone through one of these exercises with me on the podcast. So there's a reason why some of these players, like you and him, are actually picking some of the same guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reason some of these guys are at the top. Right? It's because people have picked them before. But I'm sure that Dale and yours feed would light up if the Bengals didn't go defense and they went running back. I would be here just for the social media aspect.
It would be insane to talk about but then, once you got him in the camp, it'll be great. Let's go back to defensive line there. And with our 2nd round pick, we're going to take big citrus there, Dominic Orange from Iowa State. Another guy I think maybe can rush the passer a little bit, but more of a run plugger. Bengals need that too. So let's take Dominic Orange in the 2nd round at defensive line.
So I've observed that you're bypassing Kamari Ramsey in round 2. Can I ask what your grade on Ramsey is? Is he a fit for the Bengals?
He could be, and it's just I like some of these other safeties more than Ramsey, and I kind of I have Ramsey as my 5th rated safety coming into this process right now, behind Downs, Thieneman from Oregon, McNeil Warren, and Halsey from LSU. So I would take those 4 guys ahead of Ramsey in the 2nd round, and then Ramsey's probably not going to be there in the 3rd. So it's kind of that scenario.
Got it. So Love, Orange, rounds 1, 2. What are you thinking?
What do we got on the edge here?
So Akis is there. I'm looking to see. Mesidor is available. Romello Height is available. Barham and Moore are also both available.
So with Romello Height, he's going to be completely undersized here. Mesidor, I think, is going to go higher than the 3rd round, but if he was available in the 3rd round, I'd run that card up for sure. But
I think his age keeps him
very in
the top 50.
Yeah. Very, very possible. Very possible that he does fall in the 3rd round because of his age. But yeah, I'd sign up for that. Even if I took edge in the 1st round and Mesidor was still available, my pick in the third, I'd take him again. And let's take Golday here, the linebacker from Cincinnati, in the fourth round. Let's just get that extra linebacker in there to come in and compete with Barrett Carter to be that number two. They've got to sign a veteran in free agency to run it. They can't run the two youngins back out there again.
So that was a unique Bengals mock. That was Love, Orange, Mesidor, Golday. Okay. So
hey.
Safety 1. You sprinting the pickup for Caleb Downs?
Yeah. In this scenario, this is easily Caleb Downs all day. There's no hesitation here.
Okay. Well, and again, so that's part of fanatic mode is sometimes the picks are easy. Sometimes you do have to dig on the board a little bit. So you do Caleb Downs in round 1.
So let's go right back in front of him and get another athletic chaser, and we're going to go C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia here, productive see ball carrier, hit ball carrier type of guy with the Bulldogs.
So I think those first 2 picks, I think Bengals fans would be ecstatic if you came out of the draft with Downs and Allen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at round 3. Cage Casey fell to round 3. I don't know that he had been available before. What are you thinking as far as either defensive line? Like, are you round 3 on McClellan or Jackson or Moton?
I would consider Darrell Jackson here. What else was available on the edge?
So edge, Akis, Overton, and then the Michigan edges will also be here.
Yeah. So I like in this scenario, I like Gabe Akis, the defensive end from Illinois, the edge there. I think he's a second-round talent, but could fall into the third. He's had some production qualities there with the Illini as well.
Okay, so safety, linebacker, edge. That was Downs, Allen, and Akis. What are you looking at in round 4?
So again, I want to at this point. We'll consider the interior offensive line. I'm not in love with any of the guys there. We'll look for that swing tackle. You could talk me into Blake Miller maybe. Let's look at the slot receivers here. See what's available in that scenario. Rivers, no. Barry and Deion Burks. Yeah, let's go with Deion Burks, a receiver from Oklahoma. I think he's another guy. This is going to be about where he's going to be undersized but shifty, a highly productive guy at Purdue, at Oklahoma, can create his own space. I like him here at the in the 4th round.
Okay, and take a deep breath, Brian. We got one more to go. So I hope you're having fun.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Okay. So now this scenario, Woods, Reese, Bailey, Delane, Falk, Love, Downs are off the board. Ruben Bain is there.
Yeah, this gives me Ruben Bain sprinting that card up to get this guy. We're going to talk so much in the next 3 months about arm length and Ruben Bain, and I'm sure it matters, but man, it doesn't seem to bother him at all out there on the field, and you've seen him just dominate offensive lines. He's so good.
Okay, so with the Bengals at pick 41, C.J. Allen, Dominique Orange, Jennings Dunker, Kristen Miller, Caden Proctor, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, and Jalen Kilgore are all off the board before your picks. And if you notice, like, for example, if Halsey was a guy that you were looking at, when I did one of these with the Jets earlier today, the Jets person who did this likes Halsey at 33. So I don't know what everybody else is saying, but the people who use this simulator say Halsey is a Jet. That's definitely as high as I've ever seen AJ Halsey. But, hey, that's what Anthony Russo was doing. Yeah. So more power to him. But the basic concept for anybody watching this is you're mock drafting against the users of the simulator. You're not mock drafting against a single big board. It's however the people that use the simulator see their board and what their team should do. So What are you thinking for the Bengals if you do Ruben Bain and most of the second round safeties
Can
are
we?
off the board?
Yeah. So we're going to come back to Ramsey, but let's look at the corners.
So Keith Abney dropped, Julian Neal, D'Angelo Pons, Will Lee, Tacario Davis, Keontae Scott are all there.
I'm going to come back
Colton
to Scott.
Hood is off of there.
Yeah. Let's draft Colton Hood on the off chance he's actually available in the second round, because I've heard a lot of first round talk with Colton Hood. Jermon McCoy, who didn't play at all this year, still could go in the first round. A lot of people think that Colton Hood could also go in the first round.
Okay. So Ruben Bain, Colton Hood. And I agree with you. Some people are round one on Colton Hood, but I've also heard plenty of other people that have Hood outside the top 50. So there's some variation in where his grades are right now.
Yeah, and as with any corner and any receiver we've talked about tonight, or you're going to talk about between now and the end of February, the combine is going to be key for any of these guys, because if they ain't got speed, they ain't getting drafted high. That's just straight fact. There's nothing we can do about that. Let's look at
round three. What do you look at?
Let's go back to wide receiver there. There's an interesting name that I would absolutely love if was still available on the board here at the top. Southern Cal wide receiver Jacoby Lane. I think he's going to have a chance to have a big week at the Senior Bowl and could push him up much higher than what we've got him going here. But as a third round wide receiver, I'd love to see him get that chance.
Okay. I love how you're finding value on the board. That is the spirit of fanatic mode. So again, Brian, you're playing right into, like, this is how I design the simulator. These are the types of podcasts I like to make or use the simulator on podcasts like this. So you have one last pick.
Let's look at the interior defensive line.
Okay.
And this last pick, I like the pass rush upside of Xavion Harris from Ole Miss. So we're going to pick him in the fourth round.
Okay. Absolutely love it. So that was Ruben Bain, Colton Hood, Jacoby Lane, Xavier Harris.
I'd be good with that.
Okay. So thank you for doing that. And now I'd like to give a brief demonstration of the effort that Brian just did. So I am going to do a 7-round mock for any team that's not Cincinnati. So the Jets have too many picks. Washington doesn't have a lot of picks. So what I want to do is pay attention to who the Bengals take in this mock. And what we're going to see is a lot of the players that Brian took will be who the Bengals take, right? So you essentially set up a player board and everybody's going to mock draft against it. So let's see. I'll do Sonny Styles to the Commanders. So I'm also going to try to pick players that you didn't pick. So the Bengals, the Commanders don't have a second round pick. So the Bengals in round 1 took Arvell Reese, who was a player that you took. And the Bengals in round 2 took Proctor. Okay. What we're doing, the Commanders still need defense.
And I do like Keontae Scott. I kept trying to think of ways to get him in the third round, but I always end up taking corner somewhere else, another spot.
Okay, so the Bengals in round 3, they're early. They took Dominique Orange. That was a player you picked. In round 4, the Bengals took Danny Dennis-Sutton.
So, see, they got better value in this scenario than I did when I took them both, because I took Sutton in the third round and I took Orange in the second round. So they got them both a round later, which is great.
And then So I'm looking.
They didn't have a
The
fifth.
Bengals did not have a round 5. And I have to figure out if these picks are round 5 or 6. Because that's round 5. The Bengals don't have a pick. And then I'm picking for the Commanders, and the Bengals are picking 2 picks later. So what do we got here? I've done the big ones. I was looking for a specific player, but he must have already been taken. I was looking for the Michigan.
Klein.
Yep. Okay, so the Bengals took Glasgow in round 6. The Bengals took.
They didn't have a 5th round pick.
Okay, thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, and then at this point, I'll do Logan Fano. And did the Bengals have a 6 or a 7?
They had 2 6. So they would have had Markel
Bell and Glad. Okay, so by the time we got to round 6, all the players that you had picked are off the board. So when you do fanatic mode, I will tell people I don't think it's one and done, meaning that don't like we've done this Bengals mock. If we were to come in and do it in 2 months, there's a good chance that a lot of the players that you thought, hey, in round 4 they should be gone in round 3, they will be. Because as every team begins to set up their board, you'll be able to see, is everybody targeting the same player, yes or no? Right? Because if everybody's targeting the same player, they tend to move up. Right. So Brian, first of all, I want to say thank you, because when I invited you to come on the podcast, you did not know what you were walking into. So thank you. But you want to maybe just summarize what you just went through and introduce yourself to everybody that's watching here on Draft Professor right now?
So I guess that was really fun, because it makes you think, and what it showed me was maybe picking 10th isn't that bad, because there's a very good chance that you're going to be faced with a scenario where you're going to get, a shot at 3 to 4 players that could have instant impact on your roster next year. But on the flip side, when we went through the last scenario there with the fanatic mode, that there you might get stuck picking Kildrick Falk or whatever, and that's where you're hoping that maybe somebody else wants to come up and has a target, a specific player. You can come back and maybe pick up an extra mid-round pick that you don't have, and give you a couple more bites at the apple, so to speak. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, now this was a really good time. I enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciated having you on. So do you have any podcasts or any other content that you want to let everybody know about?
Yeah. So Draft Countdown, we have already on YouTube channel here. It's youtube.com/the Draft Countdown. And I do a weekly show there, basically college football, getting you ready for the prospects, and it'll shift into full draft mode here once the season is over with. And then we have we do some team mock videos. One of our other contributors, Brad Menendez, posts those. And those are really fun, for people just to go through a simulator. He goes through a simulator and does the same thing. So it's kind of interesting to see it that way. And over at draftcountdown.com, we have a new mock draft up every week from one of our 3 or 4 contributors that we have. We get that every week. I have a big board that goes up. Rankings. We'll be covering the All-Star games coming up. That season's actually already started this past weekend, but the Senior Bowl is where we're going to really make our hay. The Senior Bowl is in Mobile, Alabama. I live in Mobile, Alabama. The stadium is 3 miles from my house. So I'm there every day for practice. I'll be there at the game, and we're going to have wall-to-wall Senior Bowl coverage that week. And then, of course, we'll roll that into the combine and everything else. But draftcountdown.com is a great place to go for everybody to get daily draft coverage.
Oh, so I'm going to be checking out your website here shortly. So there is going to be about 10 or 15 draft professors that are in Mobile. So we're a group of 110 draft people. and about 15 of us will be in Mobile.
Cool.
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
More people down here, the better, man. It's like there isn't many things that happen in Mobile, Alabama on a yearly basis. We have basically Mardi Gras and the Senior Bowl, and that's it. and for those
like
people,
2 weeks apart.
well, but here's the thing: this year they actually converge. We have no control over that. It's all based on Easter. So yep. Easter, Fat Tuesday is 40 days before Easter. So, and then you back up 3 weeks from that, and that's when Mardi Gras starts. And it so happens, I believe, that the first parades in Mobile will start like the week of the Senior Bowl. So, if you're down here for the Senior Bowl, it's a chance to double up on your fun, I guess, if that's your scene.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I was in Mobile last year too. That was my first time there. I'm just going to say, it's a cool little city. Like, I'm glad I was only there for 4 days. Like, I don't want to make that sound like bad. I'm glad that it was like 4 days. It was enough. I got to see the city, got to experience a few things. Mobile has an awesome convention center, right? And they treat the Senior Bowl really well. Mm-hmm. So that everybody in Mobile was friendly. Lots of little unique like restaurants that are right there in their little quarter. So it's a great place to visit. It really is. So for the 110 people at the Draft Professor, for Brian and myself, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and enjoy your Monday evening. We actually have one more podcast coming on in an hour, which will be discussing the quarterbacks that will be playing in Mobile. So thank you very much, and we will see you on a podcast again in about 1 hour, everybody.